Well, it's turned out to be another eventful day at the World Test Championship final, ongoing at the Lords here at Stumps, Australia. In their second innings, they are 144 for 8 and they overall lead by 218 runs. Once again, it's a wicket-filled day because 14 wickets have fallen on day 2. Same was the case on the opening day of the WTC final here. South Africa, they began at 43 for 4. There was some kind of resistance shown by David Bedingham and their captain Themba Bavuma, but then that wasn't really enough because it was Captain Cummins who starred for Australia with a 6-wicket haul and made sure that South Africa could only muster 138 in their first innings. Now in reply, South Africa did begin well in the second innings, and at one stage Australia were in a clear spot of bother at 73 for 7, but then Alex Carey and Mitchell Starc put on a 50+ partnership, Carey chipping in with 43 and made sure that at Stumps it was Australia who went to the pavilion smiling.
I don't know which team is in a hurry at the moment to go back home. We saw 14 wickets tumble on day 1. It's exactly the same number of wickets that have fallen at day 2. Clearly the batters don't want to be in London. I wonder what is it that they're not liking. Is it the weather? Is it the fact that that they're not liking the Lord's cricket ground in its new shape and design that we see it at the moment? What is it that the two teams aren't liking in London that they want to head back home? Shashwat, you have an answer?
The Indian team has to practice, na?
So they've been told to wicket
by day 3. By day 3, they're supposed to end this test match, and tomorrow I'm pretty sure about this fact that it's going to be the last day of the test match.
Yeah, more than likely it's going to be the end of the test match tomorrow.
It's going to be the last day. But I think they have, South Africa, I think they have just themselves to blame. They had a really strong hold on this game when they were 66 for 6, if I'm not wrong. Australia were 66 for 6. They were just leading by 130, 40 odd runs. And from there, they should have made sure that they bundle up Australia under a lead of 200, and then I think they would have been firm favourites in this final to win it actually, because day 3 and 4 automatically becoming the best days to bat in that sense on this wicket. But I think Australia did a very smart thing. One thing that I noticed, as soon as they were 6 down, Pat Cummins came, everybody just started to throw their bats on the ball. They realized that they're just 40-50 runs away from actually having a pretty safe total in that sense. Again, it's cricket, anything can happen. Even 220, 230 can be chased down, but it looks very tough seeing how the conditions have been so far. So they exactly did that. They realized that we are not going to be able to buy time on this wicket. The only thing you can do is score runs, and that's exactly what batters later on started to do. Just look at Alex Carey. He batted at a strike rate of 80. In excess of 80. That just clearly shows their intent absolutely changed as soon as Travis Head fell, and I think that was a very smart move and the right way to go about this their runs.
Are you sure though? Are you sure? Because you make a very valid point, and that change of stance from Australia was very clearly visible. They wanted to throw their bat at everything. The idea was not to go hang in there and show resistance, but I'm afraid the fact that there isn't any demons in the pitch, at least to my knowledge, I don't see, and whatever that I've seen over 2 days of cricket, I don't see any demons in this wicket. Remember the Cape Town match, India-South Africa, where there were visible demons in the
1.5 day match.
1.5, the shortest test match that we've seen. Now, if it was a wicket like that, and then you saw the Indian team in the second innings go ahead and throw their bat at everything, so then it's understandable where survival is extremely difficult. But this doesn't look like a wicket to me that needs that kind of an approach. And I wonder if this was the right plan from Australia. Are they sure, as Shashwat was saying, that anything above 200 they row, or just around 180, because they already have a huge 70-run lead from the first innings as well? Is that where the confidence is coming from, or this is just Australia misjudging the whole situation and throwing their bat much earlier than they should have.
See, at that point, they had no other option, Harshit. So they were already 6 down. Even if they would have shown some resistance, somebody like a Pat Cummins or Mitchell Starc, Nathan Lyon, Bo Webster, you would not have expected them to buy their time and then do their runs.
Bo Webster batted well in the first innings.
But
Pat Cummins he comes in with this reputation. Remember when we were
if they
talking...
would have hung in there, I'm saying if they would have bought time, they would have saved their wickets. They would have added just 20-25 more runs. They would have been at 80 something for 6, and then how much more would have they scored? I know that the wicket, that there aren't any demons, and ideally day 3 and 4 should be very good batting conditions. But just if we look at it, the highest score as of now, we've almost seen 3 wickets. It's been 212.
Steve Smith from the first innings.
No, team total.
Team total.
212.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that's been the highest score. Now going into the 4th innings, I know 4th innings is coming on day 3 itself, but South Africa, the way they bat it, I don't know. They don't inspire confidence. I'd still want something unthinkable to happen in the WTC final, but I think Australia would be happy with where they have reached after being at 66 for 6 with a lead of just 110, 20, 30 runs, whatever that was at that point.
I think it basically brings me back to the point that I think one of the commentators made the earlier day, that it's not really the fact that there are too many demons on the wicket. Obviously, there is no uneven bounce or something like that, or ball is swinging too much. I think it's just down to the slope, and that's why maybe now Lungi Ngidi's decision, the decision to have Ngidi here, I think it makes sense because he has been South Africa's standout bowler in the 2nd innings.
Yeah, but you've made Lungisani Ngidi, who's been in and out of this side,
look almost unplayable.
Totally because of injuries, and we know he's had a tough last 1 year. You made him look like a Dale Steyn. That Pat Cummins wicket that he took, yes, he's looked good. But that Pat Cummins wicket was more of the batter gifting his wicket, making so much room, then missing it altogether. I don't quite get this Australian batting. Lungisani and Ngidi did well to bowl in the right channel at times, especially to the left-handers. He troubled Usman Khwaja a lot, as we saw, and later on as well. But if you ask me, this is just poor batting that we've seen from both sides. This has not been about exemplary bowling, courtesy which you've seen 28 wickets fall across 2 days. This is just very ordinary batting from two sides.
I think it's not really just down to ordinary batting. See, first of all, there were question marks about Australia's top order, top 3. That's when even, Bavuma also said that, he probably smelled something that you can trouble them. And that has been the case because Australia's top order has been an utter failure. Manas, he has looked to defend, on most of the occasions, but then instead he should have tried to, do the opposite, which is to stay busy on the crease, try to take those singles, doubles, and maybe, a boundary here and there. That way, he could have probably romped back into form, but that was not to be the case. Steve Smith,
he's been out of form since a very long time.
It's been, almost 1.5 years now that he has been pretty inconsistent.
India series also, he just had 1 half century.
Yeah, couple of 50s that he had. Travis said, once again, it's a surprise that, he hasn't really scored all those runs. Alex Carey, turning out to be a good batter.
For another team, right?
Yeah, the team in blue.
Yeah.
That always happens, whether it's 19th November or the BGT. But I think overall for both the teams, I think specifically South Africa, even when, you lost Themba Bavuma, there was still a bit of batting to come. Kyle Verreynne, there was Marco Jansen also. I think that way you have to credit, Pat Cummins for the spell that he bowled at that time. Because David Bedingham, there's a reason why he has been South Africa's best batter in this WTC cycle. But overall, I think it's just down to the fact that maybe they're not able to adapt to the conditions, that well. That has always, maybe that has not really been the case with Australia, because usually wherever they go, they are very quick to adapt. Similar is the case with South Africa also. I think there is something for sure. Maybe it's the slope that I'm talking about, and maybe that's why, Lungi Ngidi's the decision to have him, made sense. But overall, I think I'm not sure if it's actually below average batting. I think it's just that you needed maybe maybe one more test match, or maybe more days of practice, or maybe an extra practice game to get acclimatized to the conditions.
But slow, but Lodge has been there forever. This was, I think, was absolutely terrible batting in that sense. Over full pitch.
Look at that wicket of Travis Head.
And over pitch deliveries, all of them were, you can easily defend them, drive them, do
is
anything.
a backup bowler. He is not your frontline bowler.
Correct.
That you get cleaned up the way that you did. Yes, the ball held its line, but it went with the angle. That's it. There was nothing menacing about that delivery per se, and there was nothing menacing about so many deliveries from both the sides. If you were to ask me, we've seen 14 wickets fall today, and if there are 28 wickets falling across 2 days, then there's something on a pitch where there aren't any demons per se. Then I believe it's just down to batting, because even though the sun's been out, no teams really capitalize on those situations. Yes, it was cloudy for the first hour today as well. There was a brief shower. We saw that cloud cover yesterday as well, but things opened up. The sky opened up yesterday. It opened up today as well. I just think, I'm going to say this again, this is just disappointing batting from both sides. But even though where we are, it'll be Australia, that'll be the happier team. It's courtesy that huge lead now in retrospect.
And
It counts for a big lead. Those are that of Pat Cummins, but even then there is a little bit of a pattern that I see from yesterday and today, and that is the South Africa not being able to apply the chokehold. Remember, we were talking about it yesterday as well, Gulati. You had Australia on their knees, but you allowed Steve Smith to settle with those looseners on the outside, giving him a lot
Bo
of
Webster.
today as well. And then Bo Webster also got in. You got some vital runs in the first innings today as well. 67 for 6, it became 73 or 76 for 7, 73 for 7. You should ideally be bundling out the team for inside 110, 120. If you have 7 wickets for 73, you don't allow the tail to wag. And this is where, for the second time in 48 hours, you've had South African bowlers not be able to apply the chokehold, and this is where things will probably slip out of their hands.
See, ideally, very honestly, I feel that they still have the test match. I'd say that they have their nose ahead at this point.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because day 3-4 are going to be very, very good batting conditions. All they need to do is just apply themselves. If they end up applying themselves, I don't think the bowling has been so great or the conditions are so hard to bat on that you cannot score these many runs in about a day's time.
I totally back that claim. I think these are still very good conditions. Look at that shot from Labuschagne, wide outside off.
All the balls are either up.
Exactly.
Over pitch,
there was
all
no
the balls
swing
are
on offer. Just got beaten by the angle. He nicks it, behind the stumps. But I'd like to believe, I've not seen anything at the moment that suggests that batting conditions are going to change or the surface is cracking up. Nothing of that sort that we've seen so far. But it was such a big disappointment from South Africa in the first innings, which is what makes me believe there'll have to be a huge turnaround for them to establish the lead in this match, because that'll be very disappointing. They got all out for 138 earlier today. So that's where I feel that it'll be more of a mental battle for them to forget what they did. The conditions are very much there on offer for them to go exploit, but will they be able to do that and beat that Australian mentality, who right now they feel with that slogging that we saw, I'd like to believe that they believe that 70 odd run advantage that they established is enough, added to the 144 that they've already posted. That gives them enough cushion to go for the win.
Let's talk a bit about Pat Cummins now. He's actually made a habit of silencing the crowd, starting with the Ahmedabad, the day, 19th of November 2023, and after that also, before that, for that matter, the WTC final that Australia won in 2023, and now once again a 6-wicket haul. Coming in at a time when Australia really needed the most. I think South Africa were about 120 odd for 5, and after that they just collapsed, could not really get going at all, and it was all down to Pat Cummins' 6-wicket haul. How important his spell would really be in the greater scheme of things as far as this match is concerned.
It could just be the match-winning spell in that sense, I feel, because of that Australia ended up with a 70-run lead, and now they have that luxury despite being now already 8 down in that sense for a very under par total. So in that sense, it will definitely be a match winning spell if Australia end up winning. To be very honest, the job is not done yet. He'll need to sort of do exactly what he did in the first innings when the Australian team comes out tomorrow and have a 10-wicket haul maybe in the WTC final.
I think overall...
That'll be a first then in WTC
yeah,
history.
that will be a first.
A WTC final history. So now,
Three only years history.
going into whatever, these records they're there as long as they're there. You only had one 5-wicket haul. I think that was Kyle Jamieson going into this match, and now you've already seen that number increase to 3. You had Pat Cummins, and earlier you had a Rabada as well, who had gotten his name up on the imaginary honors board that I have in my mind for WTC finals. But right now, to answer your question, Gulati, that spell seems like the best spell. We saw exemplary bowling from Rabada yesterday. It was only bettered by Pat Cummins, and this is what you needed from South Africa. Look what Pat Cummins didn't allow the tail to wag, and look at those wickets. Bulk of those wickets were all of the lower order and the tail, including just one, I think, of a top order batter. But otherwise, clinical from Pat Cummins, and we know he doesn't have that searing pace. He doesn't have that X factor per se. He looks like a very run-of-the-mill ordinary bowler, but he's anything but ordinary. As we know, he uses his angles very well, and look at the dismissals, the way that he's changed the line. He's tried operating between the 4th stump, 5th stump, and just changing his length a bit. I was very impressed with the way he was using his angles today and getting the batter, especially the right-hander, making life very difficult for the right-hander for a right-arm bowler to make life difficult with his angles for a right-hand batter is something we don't get to say very often. But today we saw that he was squaring the batters on a couple of occasions, as we saw. So it was very good to see him apply himself very very nicely. It was a very good battle to begin with. Bavuma versus Pat Cummins. I remember Bavuma smashing him for a very good 6 on the leg side, the one that he pulled, and it was Cummins though who had the final laugh, was thanks to that splendid catch. And see, this is where matches are won and lost. South Africa looked much better for all the criticism that we had for South Africa yesterday, being in their shell, not showing enough initiative, the captain not being proactive with the bat and looking timid. From there, you saw him come out back with confidence, and it looked like this is where South Africa will resurrect their innings. You needed a special moment, and it came on that delivery. Foolish delivery, but there was a short cover exactly meant for that purpose and produced that wonderful catch. Manas Labuschagne over, and this is where matches are won and lost.
Clearly, I think even I also feel, what Shashwat and you also said, that it could be a match-winning spell. Maybe one final thing, before we take the comments here. Now, if I am Temba Bavuma and know that, the target more than likely will be around 240, 250-ish, assuming, Australia still, score about 10 or 20 odd runs, more from here. What do you do with the playing 11? Do you promote a certain David Bedingham at number 3 and push Vian Mulder down the order, knowing that, Bedingham is the one who is actually in form, or do you keep it the same?
Very interesting, but I think, as much as we were reading into the South Africa side, Gulati, I think you knew that this is the batting order they're going to be going with. So the preparation was always to have Mulder at 3 and Viren can give you those runs at number 6 as he did, I think, in that Sri Lanka series as well. I don't quite see this batting order changing. Yes, Bedingham in fact is their highest run getter in this WTC cycle with about 640 odd runs coming into this match, but I don't quite see South Africa changing their lineup in the second innings.
I'd stick with the same. I think it'll be Markram and Stubbs who will really need to step up in this innings.
Okay. I would personally, make that change. I would have Bedingham at number 3. I think that will more be a statement that South Africa would be making. That he's the man in form. So better to have him, face most of the deliveries up front. Okay. And he has been your best batter in this WTC cycle. So why not take that risk this time around when you need it the most? Let's take a few comments now.
Just one question that I have for you, Gulati, before we get into the comments. Shashwat still feels it's South Africa who hold an advantage. I feel otherwise. Your thoughts?
I'm going to go with otherwise. Australia.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's 200 plus.
Yeah, I think, see, these batters, they're more than likely they're going to add about 10-15 odd runs, and 230 odd on this kind of a track, I think it's going to be tough. So let's see. Two of us feel here that Australia will retain the title, while Shashwat is the one who is very confident that, South Africa might just go on to surprise Australia here. Let's see what our viewers have to say. Sarat Chandra is saying it's anyone's game, but feel Australia are 60-40 ahead. That's what even two of us think here.
First slip? Was that
It's Shubman?
No.
Yeah, that's Gill.
No.
That was
next
Gill
to
at
him
first, KL at second.
I thought Abhimanyu
You were seeing
Eastman
it
was
from this
also
side.
there.
No. Gill at first and KL at second.
Okay, Nashley is saying South Africa could have wrapped up Australia today itself had they not dropped those catches. Those missed chances would have carried, or they could have placed the fielder slightly ahead. This is also, surprised me a bit that South Africa's slip fielders, they actually were, standing way behind. They could have, stood maybe a step in front so as to, yeah, that was the point. It wasn't really carrying. So that's also the thing that might just hurt them. Nashley has another comment that 3 days, that's what he had predicted. The game would be over if the pitch keeps behaving the way it is. Maybe the pitch does not really have too many demons. It's just down to some good cricket the both teams have played specifically with the ball. Arvind Mohan is saying why there are no proper test match batting these days. Why should the batters do what should the batters do to score big, like 100, 200, 300s? I hardly see 300s scored these days. I think just to the defense of both Australia and South Africa, they did not really have maybe the best of the preparations that you would want to have for the neutral conditions. Had there been, had this test been in Australia or maybe South Africa, one of the teams would have definitely benefited. But that's the thing. I think this usually happens. Priyanshu is saying, come on, Temba Bavuma. Arvind Mohan has a comment that Kalis Dravid are so solid and don't play those loose shots. These days, everyone is so attacking in front foot, committed and get out. Not the best way to play cricket. And last comment I think we'll take. Nationally at Lord's, day 3 is the best to bat on. So, that's about it, guys. Anything else you would like to add?
Let's take one more from Alston Menezes. He says that guys, one more thing, you're forgetting the no balls bowled by South Africa. Ian Smith on comms was stating that this could prove to be expensive.
Every run counts on this pitch. Every run.
Absolutely. Especially those big no balls from Marco Jansen. There were a couple of them yesterday. We again saw him overstep today. So he really needs to get that act together. And who knows if it's already too late.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about it as far as the coverage of day 2 of the WTC final is concerned. More than likely, the game is going to finish tomorrow, and one thing is for sure that we are headed for an exciting finish. So we are going to be live, as and when the match finishes, and it's going to be a proper discussion that we'll have. But until then, on behalf of Harshit, Shashwat and our humble producer Shivam, it's Siddharth saying goodbye. Good night, Nandri, Vanakkam, Shubhratri, Shabba Khair.
Eat your vegetables.
And don't trouble your mother.